These guys are incredibly confident that they are the smartest people in the room. That, they're operating on a different level than the rest of us, which leads to some moves that have been far too clever by half over the past 2-3 years.
Mike Wilner back on the show from the Toronto Star and also hosted the Deep Left Field podcast. Make sure you search that, check it out. Mike, great to see you. Happy New Year to you. And I want to dive right into a Toronto Blue Jays team that has shown that they want to spend this offseason. Aside from the Andres Jimenez trade, is anyone going to take big money up in Canada to head north? And why isn't it happening?
I mean, I guess not if it's not as big as the money that everybody else is offering, right? This off season feels to me like that old Andrew Friedman line back when he was with Tampa Bay. I think it was something like, if you're rational on every free agent, you're going to finish third on every free agent. And that seems to be the course that the Blue Jays are going with. Last winter, and we talked about the Ohtani chase, and I believe they were legitimately in on Ohtani, and I believe that they finished second and were offering just as much, if not more, than what the Dodgers were offering. But I don't believe that happened with Juan Soto this year. I feel like they got in, but then they got out before the bidding got to $700 million because it didn't tie up with their valuations of Soto. And I think that's a huge mistake. If you're not willing to go all the way, then don't even bother getting in and concentrate your efforts on other people. But it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like the Blue Jays are comfortable with keeping up with the way that this market has changed. Which is why they've lost out on lots of guys, and they've made the one trade for Andres Jimenez to improve what's already the league's best defense. And I've said this a whole bunch of times over the course of this offseason. It feels like Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins are trying to prove that you can win a game 0-0 because they just haven't done anything to address what was a terrible offense last year.
That's tremendous. Win a game 0-0. I feel like if that is their plan, I think that would be an upgrade, because tell me if I'm wrong. Are these decisions being made because they don't really have a concrete plan? And I know they'll say we have our boards, we have what we're doing here, but the uncertain future for the GM, for the manager, for their team superstar, is that making them like, we kind of want a free agent, but we're not really sure where we're going. And if we had a plan, it doesn't really revolve around overspending for any free agents, so we don't get any.
I mean, that last part, for sure. I think they do have a plan. I mean, these guys are incredibly confident that they are the smartest people in the room. That, they're operating on a different level than the rest of us, which leads to some moves that have been far too clever by half over the past 2-3 years. I think the biggest issue of all is that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not signed. I think the Blue Jays really blew it a couple of years ago in not locking him up, and it's going to cost them, it should cost them a couple $100 million, but extra than what it would have cost him to sign him 2 years ago. But I don't think they're going to sign him. He's given them the deadline of the opening of spring training. He said on a podcast in the Dominican last month that he was offered $340 million, and it's not close to what he wants. Apparently, he's looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of $450, and who knows how that's changed with the Soto signing and the way that the market has changed. But Vladdy knows that he's going to be the belle of the ball next winter. He'll be what Soto was this winter and what Ohtani was last winter, just on a lower level, but he's going to be the best out there, and he'll have teams crawling all over themselves to sign him. So he's in no rush. And the Blue Jays have really dropped the ball on him. And while he sits there unsigned, other free agents, and I talked to Alek Manoah about this the other day. It's on the current episode of my podcast, which everyone should be listening to. And Manoah said, once they know what they're doing with Vlad, then that will give other free agents the idea to know who they're playing with and what they're signing up for and all that stuff. But while they're dragging their feet on this, other people are looking and saying, what am I signing up for? There's no Vladimir Guerrero Jr. after this year. There's no Bo Bichette after this year. There's no Kevin Gausman after next year and no Chris Bassett after this year. What's going on? So I really do think that that's the biggest thing. Whatever their plan was, and I asked Mark Shapiro in October if he thought Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was a generational player, and he didn't say yes, sort of hemmed and hawed his way around it. And I wonder if other people look at this team and think, this is how they're evaluating their stars. Why would I want to come there? So for me, the plan has to involve making trades or signing people like Roki Sasaki or Haesung Kim. And so far, we haven't seen much of that either way.
You bring up a lot of good points. For me, it's always like Toronto's always in the mix, and then all of a sudden they go somewhere else. There's a lot of underlying points, I guess, for some people that you could say why people aren't signing in Toronto. Is it going to a different country? Is it, the taxes? What do you think? I know you've hit on a couple, but what do you think the main point is why they're not coming over? Is it because the team's not doing well? What do you think, your opinion, if you had to pinpoint something right now?
I think it's that the team's not offering them what they want. I really think that's it. I think, you guys know money talks. Toronto's a great place to be and a great place to play. You get paid in American dollars while you're spending in Canadian dollars. And right now that means you're getting $1.40 for every dollar, which is phenomenal. If you sign a $10 million contract with the Jays, it's $14 million here in Canada. And that more than offsets any tax changes. And everyone who plays here raves about it. Kratzy knows that. So I really just think that it's that they're getting what they want from teams that aren't the Blue Jays. I'm sure they were in on Teoscar Hernandez, and I'm sure Teoscar would have preferred to play with the Dodgers and with Shohei Ohtani, having just won a World Series championship and all that stuff, seeing the direction that team is headed in. Someone said to me the other day, where the Dodgers going to be in 10 years, what's going to happen when all these deferrals come due? And I said, they're going to have won 8 World Series by then. What does it matter? And that's what Teoscar's seeing. I don't know why Anthony Santander is not here yet. I don't know why the Blue Jays haven't made a push for Pete Alonso. I just think it's a matter of that whole thing where they're trying to be rational about costs, and the market has changed and everyone's outbidding them. Because if you're Toronto and you're not offering the most, then you're not going to get people to come here. You don't have to blow away everybody else's offer, but you do have to top everybody else's offer, and they don't seem to be willing to do that.
One upgrade would be if your recent guest on your podcast would come back and be his all-star form. Can you give us any update on Manoah and what he told you on your show and, what he sees as the future for him with the Jays?
Well, he's locked up for a while, right? He's not going to be a free agent until 28, I don't think. So he's got no choice but to stick around. But Manoah said that he feels great. He understands that it's not going to be this easy, but he's in month 7 of his rehab from Tommy John. He hopes to be throwing bullpens in March, lives by June, to go out on a rehab stint in July and be back in the big leagues in August. So he's hoping there's a playoff race to come back to. I mean, it depends how many nothing wins the Blue Jays can get over the first 100 games of the season. I don't think too many, but he hopes there's going to be a playoff race to come back to. And if there is, he would be as huge as any trade deadline acquisition to have a healthy Alek Manoah back. As much as he struggled in 2023, before he got hurt last season, he had allowed a total of 4 earned runs over his last 4 starts. So he was back and looking like himself again, and that would be a huge boost. Question is, how far back will the Jays be on August 1st?
You've been around this guy for a long time, from the All-Star season to his season where he struggled in 23 to last year. Does he blame anybody with the Blue Jays organization? Does he blame himself? Does he blame his success that he had in his All-Star season in 22? Did he put his finger on it or anything like that?
I think it's a little piece of everything. I mean, in 23, he was a rookie in 2021, made 20 starts and was incredible. Then was a Cy Young finalist in 22, and then came to camp in 23, a little bit out of shape, hurt his shoulder, struggled through it. He wasn't thrilled with how he was treated by the front office, shipped down to A-ball in, I want to say, June. And I think it was because he saw how the year before they had stuck with Yusei Kikuchi all season long when he was putting up an ERA of 5.5. So at the time, I think he was a little down on himself, down on the organization, down on everything. He felt like he was hurt. They didn't feel like he was hurt. But I talked to him after a AA rehab start on the 4th of July in 23, and he seemed like the same guy again. And in 24, he seemed renewed and grown up, got married in the off season, and understood sort of that whole arc that happened over the last 3 years. Remember, this is a guy who had never struggled at any level before. He only threw 35 innings in the minors before he got promoted to the big leagues, and then dominated for a year and 2/3. And then he kind of got punched in the face, and he didn't react well, but he's, I think, really, really learned from it. And I think we're seeing an Alek Manoah now dedicated to this rehab. He came back last year in fantastic shape, and he wants to be a leader. He wants to be that kind of player that other guys rally around. And I honestly, I think we're going to see him back to that dominant form once he gets healthy.
This is this time of year for power rankings because we really don't have anything to watch for baseball, so people just power rank everything. Power rank job security from front office and coaching staff to manager. Where is their job security? Who's closest on the chopping block?
Nobody is on the chopping block. Mark Shapiro's Pardon?
Is that right? Is that right? That
yeah,
nobody
Pyro, and it's wild. Like I for me, I look at this team and I see the Mark Shapiro came in here in 2015, so it's been a decade. Ross Atkins in 16. This will be his 10th season as the general manager. They inherited a fantastic team, aging, true, but with like 15 really good players, including young players on the way up, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Devin Travis, who unfortunately got hurt, a lot of guys. And they tried to win for a couple of years, didn't work, rebuilt quick, and then started to build a really good team that was supposed to peak this year. This is it. This is the last year of Guerrero and Bichette's control. Kevin Biggio was part of that, but they DFA'd him last year. Now he's looking for a job. But they built around 2024 and 2025. These were supposed to be the best years of this group. Instead, they've been the worst. 2021 was the best team that this front office put together, and it didn't even make the playoffs. They missed by one game, and they've gotten progressively worse every season since. For me, that means you change the front office, and it's not working. What they did last year didn't work, and they seem to be doubling down on this pitching and defense thing that didn't work. For me, that means you sweep it clean and everybody goes and you start fresh. And the fact that they haven't been able to get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. extended just hits that even harder. But Mark Shapiro runs this show, and Mark Shapiro is beloved by ownership. They have bought everything he has sold them completely. And as long as that relationship remains, everybody's safe. Ross Atkins is Mark Shapiro's guy. He's not going anywhere because he's not really pressing the buttons. Shapiro is. John Schneider is their guy, and I think John Schneider is a terrific manager. He's doing the best that anyone could do with what he's been given. So I really do think, they talk about how stability is so important. I don't think anybody is in jeopardy at all. And if I was running the show, if you were running the show, I think things would be very, very different. But as long as Mark Shapiro is running the show, and as long as ownership has completely bought in to what Shapiro tells them, and they have, nobody's going anywhere.
So last one for you, Mike. If the Blue Jays end up a 4th or 5th place, bad team again, like last year, you don't think anything will change? Are either of those guys getting towards the end of a contract? And why wouldn't it change at that point? It sounds like they're...
Why wouldn't it change?
Right, but if they put anything together again this coming season, and Bo, maybe even Vladdy too, leave, are they going to be around for what would probably be somewhat of a teardown and rebuild for another 5 years? Are they going to sell them on the 5-year plan?
I believe so. And it makes me sad. It really does. It makes me sad and it makes me scared. You know, as someone who's been covering this team for 36 years now, I was there every day from 2001 to 2012 when things were just terrible, with all apologies to Eric Kratz. I mean, this team was mediocre at best. It was good, but never good enough, never in a playoff race. And I don't believe the fans checked out as hard back then as they are right now. And I don't think ownership realizes it. You know, Mark Shapiro is someone who revels in fans' disappointment or hate. He thinks it's okay. He knows what's going on and everything's going to be fine. And you know what? It's fine when fans hate you if your team is good and you're doing the right things, some of which are uncomfortable, but they result in winning. When fans hate you and the team stinks, that's not the same thing. And I'm not sure Shapiro or ownership realizes that. I do think that unless they bring in at least one big scary bat, if not two, this is going to be a bad team again. And it's going to be tough to watch for a third straight year. And we're not that far away from seeing the 11, 12, 13,000 attendance days that we saw 20 years ago. And again, when fans are angry, that's good. When fans don't care, that's a real problem. And that's what's coming to Toronto, I think.
Mike, you were talking about the times that I was there during that time. Okay, I was in the bushes. Okay, I came over to big league camp. I never was in the big leagues during that time. But I can say when I played with Roy Halladay in the big leagues with the Phillies, one day we were sitting on the bus and Roy barely ever said anything. Roy leaned over to, they were playing Green Day song, When September Ends. Roy leans over to Chase Utley. He goes, Chase, this was the song that we used to listen to in Toronto. And it was like the funniest thing that Roy Halladay ever said, but it was so true. Because even during that time, like in 2006, the Blue Jays went out and spent a boatload of cash. Troy Gloss, B.J. Ryan, Frank Thomas was there. They brought in some superstars. But at the time, the front office, A.J. Burnett too, yeah. And the front office was like, well, we'll see what we can do. The Yankees are really good.
Yeah, that's the way it was. It was, you know, if these 17 things go exactly right, we can maybe contend for a wild card spot. And it hadn't been that way here for the last 5 years, but now we're back there again.
All right, well then the song still plays. It's still really good. I like it. So we'll see if it gets run through again in September for the Jays. I hope they land something big. Mike, thanks for joining us again. Like you mentioned, everyone check out his Deep Left Field podcast and obviously read what he's got in the Toronto Star. Happy New Year. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Happy New Year to you, too. And I'm happy to be here anytime. Appreciate it.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.